Hi everyone, Tamara here. I'm going to walk you through how to choose a tutor on iTalki. Once you're on the iTalki website, you can actually go to the Find a Teacher option. You'll get this page here. I'm going to select Spanish for what the tutor teaches. You can also narrow down tutors by availability. So if you're looking for someone that's available at a certain time of day or day of the week, you can select that here. Any selections that you choose, you'd have to hit Browse to apply those changes. Other things you can do to filter are look for what language the teacher speaks, where they're from, which is really good if you are focusing on a specific dialect of a language. For Spanish, for instance, if you're looking for a teacher from Chile because they have a very specific dialect of Spanish, you can choose Chile here and you will get options of just teachers that are from Chile. Now, I will caution, this usually works pretty well. The only issue I've found with this is that sometimes a teacher may be from a certain area, but they may be living in a completely different country. So if you have a teacher from Chile, but maybe they're living in France now, they may or may not come up in the search depending on how they've set up their profile. But normally this does work. Just kind of be cautious of that. You may find that filter a little bit restrictive. But if you are trying to focus on a specific type of Spanish, which I do recommend, you can narrow down the country of the speaker. You can also look for hourly rates. There are very different ranges here on iTalki. You can say generally the professional teachers tend to cost more than the community tutors, but it really depends on the language and on the area. I have found that there are some professional teachers that are available at low rates as well. But if you have a budget and you're budget conscious, you can select here a certain range that you don't want to tutor over $10, for instance. Now, tags are good too. So there's a couple of different options here if you want to look for someone that's good with beginners, for instance, because you're just starting out, or that works with children, teenagers, focused on business or test prep. You can narrow that down with the different tags here. I find that helpful because some tutors like to work with beginners and some don't. Some have expertise in these other areas and some don't. So if you are a complete beginner, it might be a good idea to select that beginner's tag so that you know you only see tutors that can help you as a beginner. You can also decide whether or not you want a native speaker. And there's also a trial option. Now, I haven't talked about that yet, but what iTalki does is they offer 3 trial lessons when you first sign up for the site. A trial lesson is to give you an opportunity to test out the iTalki service and also try out a few different tutors to see who works for you. Trial lessons are usually available at a discounted rate, and they also generally are, I believe, a half hour. So we'll see that option as we go through how to select a tutor. So I'm going to select trial available and also native speaker here, okay? And then hit browse, and you see it's already updated. That really narrowed my options down to just really 6 tutors. So it automatically defaults to the professional teachers, but if you want to see all the tutors, you can just click here. I would recommend looking at all because just because a person's a professional teacher, all this means is they have a certification. And that is good, but you also might find just as much success with a community tutor with a more informal lesson. It really just depends on what you're looking for. If you just need conversation practice, a community tutor is perfectly fine. I've found mixed results between professional teachers and community tutors. Just because a person doesn't have the language certification doesn't mean that they're not a good tutor. So again, I would look for all. And there's a couple of different things you want to look for when you're choosing a tutor. This is if you don't have any experience at all in iTalki and you haven't had any recommendations from a friend or a colleague. You can go here and look for a few things. Now, one is their rating. So you see this is the stars here that gives you their average rating. And these are ratings that are actually given by students who have taken lessons with these tutors on iTalki. You also want to look at the number of lessons they've given. Sometimes that's a good indication. You can tell if they've had a lot of history on the site and if they've really given a lot of lessons. Sometimes I'll look for folks that have more lessons than others, but it doesn't really, you don't really need to have someone that has maybe 100 lessons, but it's just a good idea to give you of their experience and how much time they've spent tutoring here. So you see the tags again, whether they're good with working with beginners, children, teenagers, etc. And now you'll see this 30-minute trial option that I talked to you about earlier. So as you can see, the 30-minute trial is at a little bit of a low rate. $4 is pretty reduced rate. And this, again, will only allow you to use 3 30-minute trials. So you can choose 3 different tutors and select a 30-minute trial lesson with each. So if you want a little bit more details, this tutor looks good. Alejandro has a pretty good star rating. His rate's pretty low. So if you actually go and click on the tutor's name, you can see their full profile. So that'll give you a little bit more idea of what kind of tutor they are and what kind of feedback they've gotten. This is also where you would go to book your lesson with the tutor. So what you can do is if you scroll down, you can actually view the video. So you can actually see the tutor in action and kind of hear their voice, get a little bit of a feel for their personality and see if it's someone you think you'd like to work with. So you can view the video. You can also go down, if you scroll down to the very bottom here, you can actually see reviews from other students. So this is also important. I would look for how recent the reviews are. So right now, this is January 2017. As you can see, they have some pretty recent reviews and they all seem to be pretty positive. So that's a good sign. So that's what you want to look for. Comments from other students to get an idea of how they fared with the lessons. And that will give you an indication of, is this someone that you want to work with? So here you can decide if you want to actually book a lesson with this tutor. And you can see their different rates and pricing options.